Um,
We won't see the other people, or we will in the corners?
you should see who's sort of checking in, signing in,
Okay.
like the names and things like that. Well,
Oops. Did I do that?
I wonder if like her Wi-Fi dropped or something.
Wi-Fi's been wacky all week, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what
Yeah.
they're doing with the 5G.
Just ping her.
Ladies, I'm having
You made
a
it.
major computer problem here. My desktop doesn't have a webcam, and for some reason my laptop, which I was on, has like, it won't connect to the internet.
Uh-oh.
I know. I'm like, what the heck? And I was already on this today, so it wasn't like, I don't understand.
While you're doing that stress, I just wanted to double check. Are we going to read some of those like frequently asked questions at the end, or we're
Yeah, I'm
going
gonna try and see if I can, pull up.
Okay. I just want to, we're going to do the same kind of similarity we did last time, and one of
Yeah,
us will answer them. Okay.
yeah.
I just realized I was on mute.
Oh, you were talking?
There she is, Denise. So I think, do you want like a couple more minutes to see if you can figure out what's happening, or should we just go ahead and start? How would you like to do this?
Let me see. I haven't had this happen before, so.
Do you have like an automatic picture for the background?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone signing on. We're just going through a slight tech issue. So happy to have you all here. And here you can see Julie is already on, and Denise is just trying to figure out how to turn on the video. And in a couple minutes, we'll hopefully be starting. Thanks so much. How are we doing, Denise? Do you want to just kick off or?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't find the password to log into another network.
Do you recall how, oh, there it is, the three dots. I want to just shut off all those notifications so it doesn't keep banging while we're talking. Um,
Okay, I think it's connecting.
Hi, everyone on here. We're so glad you guys are here. Just going through a slight tech issue. Denise, how would you feel about just kicking off the conversation?
Okay.
Or would you prefer to just really try and get the video back on?
or I can do a little introduction while
Yeah.
you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So here we have Denise Pines, Albright West Hollywood member and president of the Medical Board of California, and Julie E., who is a holistic health expert, also an expert on anti-aging. So I'm so glad to have you guys here discussing hormones. How can we get on top of them, make sure that we are in good health and good form as we approach the various phases of female health. And yeah, I'll let you guys take it away. Thanks so much.
Okay, so I'm not going to be able to. Hi, this is Denise Pines. I am so sorry that my internet, for some reason, is not working on my laptop, which is where my webcam is. I totally apologize. It was working a second ago, and right when Marika and I were talking, it just went out. So I don't want to delay our talk. Unfortunately, you're not able to see me, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I want to say hi to all the women around the world who's joining us today. For some of us, it's good afternoon, but for others, it's good evening because we also have Albright in the UK. We're here today because now more than ever, stress has been wreaking havoc on women's hormones and impacting their daily lives. So whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, 40s, and 60s, this time of forced isolation, I'm hoping might just lay the foundation for us to have healthier lifestyle habits. In the wake of all the worldwide shutdowns that continue to happen, depending on where you are, of businesses and schools, what people have found is that they've had an opportunity to focus inward and inward more on their health. 60% of Americans report getting weekly exercise into their routines, and others, I think, are getting what now is being termed quarantine 15 or 20, meaning 20 pounds. And that's really a lot to gain in a short period of time of like 4 to 5 months. And this puts an enormous amount of stress on your hormones. Later, Julie E. will talk about it's not what you eat, but what your body absorbs. So let's talk about hormones a little with a little bit of history. Prior to the 1900s, premenstrual syndrome, known as PMS, and menopause was viewed in a very positive light. In the past, women didn't turn to doctors for help because they didn't experience notable physical problems or symptoms with it. Actually, women in perimenopause and postmenopause felt better than they had in their childbearing years. It was a normal part of life that didn't require anything other than acceptance. The modern era changed that. And by the 1950s, reflecting women born in the 1900s, where women first started to experience hot flashes, night sweats, fatigue, anxiety, hair thinning when they reached their mid to late 40s. And then a tidal wave of other experiences began to happen to them. And they started rushing to their doctors with symptoms like moodiness, weight gain, dizziness. And more physicians started to reporting these symptoms. Eventually, the experiences became termed an epidemic. Pharmaceutical companies first thought it was just in women's heads. And then they decided to capitalize on it. They decided that just since it was just women, even though men were having hot flashes, and to this day they do have hot flashes, but it was referred to then as work sweat. So since men weren't talking about it, because that's what men do, it was appearing to happen to women of a certain age. And so they declared it to be hormones, more specifically, hormone deficiency. So this is the beginning of medicine to deal with what most times is viruses that stay dormant until our 40s or 50s, environmental toxins like pesticides, cleaning products, our hair and skin solutions, air fresheners, food allergies, and unfortunately, our beloved cell phones and adrenal fatigue. I'm going to talk more about adrenal gland fatigue because we can do something about this. You may hear people talk a lot about your hormone imbalance leads to stress, but that's just the opposite. It's your stress leads to your hormone imbalance. When you're stressed, your body creates more cortisol than it can handle. This stress hormone causes fatigue, sadness, acne, and so much more. Adrenal issues can start in our childhood if you're from a dysfunctional family or if you have experienced an emotional or physical trauma. So then in our 20s, we're off to college or off to work to begin is a new level of stress that we haven't experienced before. We're meeting new people, we're in new places, and we have higher expectations on us, whether they're academically or socially. Some of us really take to socializing at new heights in our 20s, and this becomes an interesting time for us where we start to find ourselves feeling stress and some early symptoms. Then we're moving to our working years, and we've gotten married, had children, and we've decided to, and if we decided to still work, we are moving up in our careers or becoming entrepreneurs. The stress we are putting on our bodies is enormous. And just because we can do it doesn't mean we aren't sacrificing something. In this case, it's our adrenal glands. Have you ever said to yourself or to others that you're just exhausted? I'm not talking about tired. That's different. I'm talking about exhausted. And you've been saying it for years. Well, you started to burn out your adrenal glands. And now you hit 40 and it's your kids' high school to college years, and you take on more responsibility. And maybe you're having to take care of a sick parent or a grandparent, more stress, more adrenal burnout. And now you're getting symptoms and you're exhausted all the time. And now the body is looking for its backup. It knows that it's moving out of the childbearing years, and it doesn't need the same level of hormones it needed for your body to have children. But you feel like you're crashing all the time. You have continual cravings for stimulants to keep you going. And so you amp up with coffee or sugary snacks like donuts and cookies, crackers and chocolate, Red Bull, double espresso, and even drugs, whatever you can to get a boost and maintain energy. Or you have insomnia, or you feel tired after you wake up. Well, ladies, your adrenals are your backup generator for your hormones. It's designed to kick in during midlife so that the transition from 40s to 50s is smooth. But that hasn't happened for women in 60 years now. And we are still treating these symptoms the same old way, hormone stimulation, when there are so many things that's causing us to have these symptoms. Hormone therapies, including birth control, is not the only answer. We must begin to address the underlying health issues that's been misattributed to PMS, perimenopause, and menopause. Your adrenal glands are located just above your kidneys and are about the size of a walnut. Your adrenals produce hormones critical for health and those that regulate the sex hormones like estrogen. Our bodies are designed to handle stress, like having a child, a death of a loved one, and some emotional stress like divorce or job loss. But when we stay on the stress hamster wheel day after day, year after year, that's when adrenal fatigue shows up as lack of energy. Our adrenals stop producing the full amount of hormones needed for optimal health. When your adrenals are burned out because you make so much cortisol, you can even get vaginal dryness in your 20s and 30s because you are making it at the expense of your sex hormones, your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone. Ladies, our adrenals are important because they have effects on other glands like your pancreas, your heart, your kidney, your liver, and it can lead to cancer and autoimmune diseases. And this is all caused by stress. But there's good news. It's never too late to say, I want to feel better. You can heal your adrenals. It's under your control. It's your fatigue. If your fatigue is mild, it may take about 3 months. If it's moderate, 6 to 12 months. But if it's severe, you've been tired for a long time, years, it may take up to 2 or more years. The years leading up to menopause and the life after isn't meant to be a difficult process. So now Julie E. will share how you can keep your adrenals strong and provide some stress reduction techniques that you can use every day so you can thrive at every stage of your life. Julie?
So thank you. That was a great introduction and a lot of information. I hope that everybody is processing that, because your body is one body and you are one unit. And so if you were a car, you wouldn't just keep painting the car if it sounded terrible. You would actually be digging in and figuring out what's going on in the engine. Is a spark plug or a hose have a hole in it? Like what's the root of all of this? And as Denise referenced, in our society, people are just tired, so they're pounding in Red Bull and coffee and stimulants and craving things that are external, when a lot of it comes from our internal, all of it really comes from our internal body. But really, one of the things that our body's craving is TLC and self-love. And, one of those, that may sound extreme to look for self-love to balance out your hormones. But when somebody's just putting in all this kind of junk and crap and not doing anything that makes them feel better, I would say that that represents them not having self-love. So I really want to always point out that no matter what is going on physically in the body, there's always an emotional component to it too. And if you can really go inside yourself, like Denise mentioned, a lot of people are doing during the quarantine, all this quiet time and reflective time and going inside ourselves, not just inside your house, but inside yourself to get calmer, more quiet, more clear and deeper. That's really part of the root of healing anything that's going on with yourself. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. And when it comes to your adrenals specifically, they all need B vitamins. Everybody needs B vitamins, especially if you live in LA, especially if you have a busy go, go, go life. Your body uses B vitamins all day long to make energy, to grow your hair, to make your adrenals work. They really need especially B5 and B6, but they really need everything from B1 to 12. And so keep that in mind. B vitamins are usually found in whole grains. And unfortunately, these days, the whole grains are processed where they take the vitamins out and then sometimes they fortify them. So if you can find some really natural whole grains, one of my favorite for B vitamins is buckwheat, but real buckwheat, which is actually hard to find the whole entire circle. They usually have it ground up. So Eden, Eden, is a brand that makes the whole buckwheat, and I happen to really like that and recommend it. Think of it like a rice. It's a grain. There's a lot of B vitamins in there, and of course, there's a zillion different types of B vitamins on the market. So finding a good quality one that maybe has alive nutrients in it and doesn't have any toxic tag-alongs would definitely be my recommendation. But if we look at the adrenals, the part of the body that sends a signal to the adrenals is the hypothalamus and the pituitary. And so all of these are glands, they're not organs. And in general, glands are like the conductors, of the orchestra, and the orchestra are your organs. So the glands are the messengers. They're the ones that tell your organs what to do. But when the glands are all stressed out, that's when chaos happens, and think of how horrible music can sound. And a lot of the pituitary and the hypothalamus are in the head. And the simplest thing that I can recommend is to have what I call 5 hours of head pillow contact. If you're asleep for 4 hours and then you get up to go pee and then you sleep for 10 more hours, you will actually feel more tired than if you just laid here for 5 straight hours wide awake. So hear that again, 5 hours of head pillow contact is what's important for all the glands that are in your head to get reset so that your hormones get rejuvenated. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, keep your eyes open, you can roll, but once you lift up, you have to start all over again for 5 continuous hours. And when we're sleeping, we never, ever, ever wake up to pee, because we can hold 10 times more water and fluid when we're horizontal than when we're vertical. So if you're waking up because of a specific organ or gland that's trying to repair itself, but it's depleted. It doesn't have enough nutrients that it needs to fix itself, right? We eat, we exercise, and we go to sleep to rest and repair. So if we're waking up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 5 a.m., it's because one of our body parts is not having enough 2x4s or nails or whatever you want to call it to fix, to rebuild, and to repair. So if you do wake up at that hour, you might want to consider loading more nutrition the next day of some sort, and also just stay down. Stay down. If you don't have to get up, try to clock those 5 hours. Put your clock somewhere that you could see it so you don't have to lift your head. If you need water, try to have sip it out of the side. Whatever you could do, 5 hours head pillow contact is what rejuvenates the glands in the head. And the hypothalamus is located more central of the head. It is the first part of our body that takes the hit from stress. And our hypothalamus probably gets 50 to 70,000 hits of stress a day from Wi-Fi, the phone, people, the text ding sometimes grabs, makes you jump. Someone walks in the door and you jump. All of those things, plus all of our daily life stresses that are external to us, plus just the underlying stress of the quarantine and the world and the government and your friends, whatever it is that you're stressed out about, all of that is just this ongoing stress. And when you have to get from point A to B, you secrete adrenaline, oh my gosh, I have this deadline due tomorrow. That's adrenaline. But when it's adrenaline always, that's actually cortisol. And that's what Denise was talking about. When your body is continuously producing cortisol, it can't make as much cortisol as it can estrogen and testosterone. So if you're overproducing cortisol over here, you're going to have less of your sex hormones, which is going to make you feel worse, and it weakens your immune system, and it can lead to hot flashes. So dealing with the underlying stress, whether it's the emotional piece I just said, the sleeping piece, the nutrition piece, looking for underlying causes of some of your issues. Most people have a combination of nutrient deficiency, toxicity, and infection. So toxicity is heavy metals, chemicals, smogs, pollutions, pesticides. Infection are bacteria and virus. We all have virus in our bodies. We all have bacteria in our bodies. It's when they're out of balance and when we are out of balance that they affect us in a negative way. So building our nutrition and keeping balance in our body, mind, and spirit and digestive system is what's going to keep us balanced and help our hormones to rejuvenate themselves. The body is the smartest machine I've ever seen. People that break their wrist and eat junk food and don't do anything right, they're wearing the cast, doesn't their arm heal? It's magic. So if you actually put in some nutrition to make it heal, just think of all the other benefits you're going to get. And from that example, I always like to point out, let's say someone breaks their forearm, and normally they need, I'm going to make these numbers up just to draw the point. Let's say they normally need 50 units of vitamin C a day. When they break their forearm, in order to heal that, they may need 30,000 units of vitamin C a day. But if they only, that sounds like such a high number. Most people never strive that high. So if they only get in 5 or 10,000 units, then this forearm, in order to really heal perfectly, is going to take vitamin C from my eyeball, my shoulder, my elbow, my toe, my thigh, my abdominal muscles. And it's going to take whatever it can to heal. And all the rest of me is going to end up depleted. And that depletion is what leads to rusting and aging and hormones becoming out of balance, because now all these other organs and glands don't have 100% of what they need to function. So I really want to urge you to sometimes consider optimal levels of nutrition, especially for some of the safe nutrients that our bodies need to deal with stress and digestion. And you know, in general, it's antioxidants, vitamin C, the green drinks, the purple drinks that people are drinking, the healthy smoothies, all the superfoods. But when it comes down to an individual basis, sometimes you need a more customized program, and that's when you should find a healthcare practitioner that knows what they're doing, that you feel comfortable with, and get some testing done. In terms of hormones, one of the most important things that women can do is to eat flaxseed meal. Flaxseed meal, not the seeds, you have to grind them. Flaxseed meal helps bind excess estrogen out of the body. It helps feed the small intestine, so it builds the gut bacteria in a healthy way, which helps the body get rid of more estrogen and puts the hormones in balance. Some people feel better with what we call adaptogenic herbs, and there's a handful of them. Some of the mushrooms are adaptogens. You've heard of ashwagandha, rhodiola. We use a formula here just called adaptogen, and the word itself is adapt. So if you're running low, it picks you up. If you're running high, it brings you down. And so looking for some adaptogens to have in your life, whether you use them as a capsule or a powder or a tea, is always going to be beneficial also. So to go back to, it's the HPA axis is what we call it. The hypothalamus sends a signal to the pituitary, which sends a signal to the adrenals. And then all of that actually affects your thyroid. So when we're talking about that quarantine 15 or your weight gain during menopause, it's because you have too much cortisol and this HPA axis is out of control from any type of stress. And the few stresses that I always point out are EMF, infection, toxicity, psychological, emotional, energetic, lack of sleep, certain people, certain jobs. So, you know, Denise was talking about things that something we can do something about. I want to make sure you know that you could do something about the EMFs and the frequencies coming out of your phones and your computers and your Wi-Fi. A lot of people have heard by now to power all those things down at night. That is one way to shut them off at night. But what about all day when you're on? I have 4 devices in front of me right now. So we use EMF remediation. I'm not the only one that uses this. We have some on our website. If you sign up for our newsletter, we'll send you a picture with what it looks like on a brain when you put the phone next to it. It's not a good thing. And so if we're talking about any stress weakening and depleting you, consider how many devices you're on and surrounded by, and how depleted you can be on a daily basis. Those deplete you of minerals and electrolytes. So another really great thing to do in the summer is called earthing. It's a silly name, but barefoot on the earth. There's also shortcuts where you could put a patch on your body and plug it into a grounded outlet. We have some information about that on my website if you need more, but go outside, get some fresh air. I think we've all known by now the virus dies with heat and sun, so go get some. It may not be as sunny in London, I know, as it usually is here, but get your feet barefoot on the ground, the sand, the dirt, the ocean. All of that helps you rebuild your, what we call the biofield, and your electrolyte balance, which your adrenals cannot function correctly without electrolyte balance. and also to build your mineral status. And your body stays stronger when you have a lot of minerals. I can go on for another 3 hours, but I just wanted to bring it back to Denise and see if we want to go into any more detail or take some questions. Hopefully I just gave you some more ideas of tangible take-home things you can do for your hormones.
Yeah, why don't we start taking some questions? So in the Q&A section, just put any question you want, but let's let's answer some frequently asked questions that we tend to get. So one is, I'm already eating healthy, and no matter what else I do, I can't lose weight. Is it my hormones that's out of balance?
Well, I would say that when I hear that comment a lot, and what it comes down to is like the car. You put gas in the car and oil in the engine at all times, and sometimes it still doesn't work right, right? So aren't there other things you need to do? So that may come down to something functional going on in your body. And I think the two of us already mentioned a lot of things. I just mentioned about the EMF remediation, the adrenals, the B vitamins, the adaptogens. So and even the calming and the soothing that we need, and the self-love, feeling all of it. So all of those are part of the answer to this. But what I would say is, if you really want to know, then get a saliva hormone test and get your hormones checked out. It doesn't matter what age you are, especially being a woman. And I still think even with men, if you've never had your hormones checked on a 24-hour cycle where you know what your starting point is, then now is the time, because you need to have a starting point to know, do I need to go up or need to go down? It's rare, very rare, but I have 2 clients right now that need more estrogen. And I've never seen anyone in the last 15 years that needs more estrogen, but they were both low. So it's something going on in your body is malfunctioning. And that's why we call it functional nutrition. There's a piece of your body that's not functioning optimally or correctly that needs to be addressed. It could be something in the mitochondria. It could be your cells not being able to absorb the nutrients from your food. Earthing will help that to an extent, as will more good fats and minerals in your diet. And I can give you even more solutions for this question, but I think that hopefully that's succinct enough for you to try.
Let's talk about a little, and this is just kind of my own question. I know the answer, but but I want I want you to answer it.
Okay.
What does it mean when I'm eating food, but my body isn't absorbing the nutrients? What is going on? Right. So I'm eating the right foods that someone's told me to eat, right? But my body isn't actually absorbing the nutrients. Can you talk a little bit why sometimes people aren't getting better, why sometimes their body isn't absorbing the nutrients?
Yes. First, I want to start with what is healthy, because what's healthy for Denise may not be healthy for me, and it may not be healthy for some people watching this, because we're all different and we're all unique. We have all different genetics. We come from different parts of the world. And so that's one thing of a starting point. And I'm going to assume that everyone on this call has heard of kombucha. My body hates it. I have tried over and over again. I do testing on it. My body hates kombucha. But probably all of you are thinking like, oh my gosh, I thought that was the healthiest thing ever. Well, it might be healthy, but not for me. So consider that, first of all, that everyone's body is unique and different. And then something that I talk about and work with a lot is trauma to the body. Scars that you've had where you've had stitches, or trauma to the head, or if you've gotten to a rear-ended in a car accident and you got jammed, anything that happens to the head, and it can even be certain drilling at the dentist, stitches, I got bit by a dog once on my face when I was younger. All of those can actually weaken your small intestine and your stomach. And because those things don't show up on any traditional lab tests, no one would ever know that this happens. And it could take 20 years to completely take down an organ. So I see people all of the time where they have an old scar from when they were 5 or 15, and it's reflexing to the stomach or the small intestine, which means every time they're touching the scar, whether they're washing their face or, you know, scratching their head, wherever the scar is, every time they do that, the stomach or the small intestine are getting a hit, like to shut down, shut down, shut down, shut down. So actually the organs may not be working. So if an organ's not working, the question is why. Number one, it could be the signal shutting it down. Number two, we can go back to the nutrient deficiency, the toxicity, or the infection. People have parasites, people have heavy metals, chemicals, all kinds of things in their body. And everyone's just unique as to where these things store and how they act. But I see people all the time whose stomach is not working. Then we're going to go to the fact that your cells, we're made up of cells. Hopefully everybody knows that. If you don't, now you know. And your cells are all supposed to be like a circle, like the circle on the wall behind me. But if your cells are this way or that way, then the receptor sites on the outside of the cell, there's a receptor site here for vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, etc. And when you eat the food and your body starts to break it down, it travels over to the cell, and it's like a key. And it has to go find the exact lock where it can turn and send a signal inside the cell that tells the cell to do things. And that's how we use our nutrients. But the cell wall is made up of good fats. And a lot of people stopped eating fat over the last few years, or they don't eat fat, but then they eat some junk food. So they have the trans or the bad fats. But we need oils, omega-3, 6, and 9 in really high doses as women, especially around your cycles, because you need them to begin with. You need them for the brain. It's part of the myelin sheath. All of the signals of the nervous system are coated with oil. And then all of your cell walls are made up of prostaglandins and phospholipids. Like these basically come from fat. So if you don't have enough fat, your cell shape or size could be warped. And if you go to the Earthing website, earthing.com, they usually have a good picture of it. Otherwise, we can help send it to you, where you can see what people's, if they prick someone's blood, they put it on a slide and look at it under a microscope. We actually have pictures of people's cells being warped shape. And then they spend 20 minutes on the earth, as I've mentioned, barefoot, sand, dirt, grass, or ocean, and their cells magically turn back to the right shape. And they're all floating around more peacefully instead of all on top of each other. So getting the cell wall to be healthy is really, really, really important. And you can do it through diet. And as I said, you can do it through the earth. That is why we know the earth can make earthquakes and tornadoes and all kinds of other things. There's a lot of energy in the earth, so use it to your advantage. We use an EFA oil that I have people use all day long, like eat it as part of your salad dressing because it has the perfect balance of omega-3, 6, 9. There's also one you can buy at the store called Barlean's, and it is chocolate mint essential women. And this thing for 15 years tasted like the worst thing ever under the sun, and somehow they magically made it into chocolate. It tastes like chocolate mint pudding, and you could eat it off the spoon or put it on top of your food. It is the exact ratio of the omegas that women need. So we have that here as well, and you can buy it at your local store. I highly recommend that. And so going back to the original question, why is somebody not absorbing their food? It could be scars or traumas. It could be stress. It could be toxicity, infection, or nutrient deficiency. So many reasons.
Great, thank you. We have a couple questions. One, to the menstruation. Ever since I've had children, my periods are extremely heavy and painful. Birth control is not really a solution, and it makes me feel very off. What are some ways to ease the first 3 days of menstrual cycle?
First answer, CBD. Whenever I'm on my cycle, and if I do have pain, and numerous clients, we use a topical CBD balm that you pretty much rub on the entire area below your navel, between your groins, and it just soothes that whole area. So that's to deal with the pain topically. Big picture, I would say every single woman who is a mom, of those women, I would say 99.9% have a scar. They either tore, got stitches, or had a C-section. It always traces back to that scar. Wherever that scar is, you have to start working on it to break down the scar tissue and using castor oil to get rid of any infection that might be there. You know, when you cut your finger and everyone says, wash it so you don't get an infection. How do you know you never got an infection? Just because you don't see it? You know, how many times did you cut your fingers in your entire life, or paper cuts? We have no idea what's going on inside our body. But if your scar looks terrible, for sure there's some kind of infection going on in there. So you want to slowly start to break that down. I love castor oil because it's inexpensive and easy to use right before you get in the shower. And you can also use it on your kidneys and your liver, so that when you get the toxicity out of the scar, it also gets out of your detox organs and your assembly line. I hands down 100% of the time moms have that. So that would be one thing across the board for everybody. And then I would look at your individual, you know, issues or things, anything you had before kids, anything we could look at now, assessing your hormones, you know, the 5 hours of sleep, tapping. I love tapping. I have a tapping system on my website, tapping and swiping. Many people in the books they've written, they talk about certain meridians where they do it. I just have people do their head, their lymph, their neck, and all the main organs. Think of it like beating the dust out of a pillow. You hit that pillow and the dust comes flying out. When you tap and breathe through all your organs, it's like working them out. It's just moving everything around. And I do think even those people that are exercising during quarantine, you know, it's been like 5 months and there's a lot of sitting around, way more than ever before. And when you sit, you're squishing your lymph that are in your groin. So we have to move in the opposite directions and do back bends and twisting to get some circulation, and see if that helps you. A lot of times the answer is way more simple than you think. So start with the simplest things. And that's why my tagline is simple solutions, because so many people feel better doing the littlest thing like breathing and tapping, and that's free.
We have another question. I have low estrogen, and higher but normal testosterone. I have been on aptogenetics, aptogen, sorry, and Estravera, and a handful of other supplements for 2 years. When do you recommend going on conventional hormone replacement?
I don't usually recommend anything traditional or conventional. I don't think it's in my vocabulary or my dictionary. But if you look at the cycle or the pathway that happens in our body, testosterone gets converted to estrogen. So it sounds like this person is not converting testosterone to estrogen. And there are 3 different kinds of estrogen. There's estradiol 1, 2, and 3. So this person might actually do a more specific saliva test where they get the breakdown of the estro 1, 2, and 3. So we could really see what's going on in that person's body. And also looking to see what converts testosterone to estrogen. I do think DIM and I3C will help that to a certain extent. I don't think that's the specific answer. I would have to look that one up. But for sure, it's a functional thing that's happening in that person's body. So I wouldn't just go take a pharmaceutical grade or medical grade product just to cover that up. You know, you use pharmaceuticals short term to get you over a hurdle. Like they were never invented to be on for the next 40 years of your life. That to me, that's called lazy. If you really want to live your best life and be thriving, then you love yourself and you do whatever. The saying I have all my clients say is whatever it takes to be healthy and whatever it takes to feel great. And when you do that, the answers will come to you. You just have to keep looking. And if your practitioners are not having answers, find somebody else.
Yep, I always say that. And it's okay.
I have like 10 or 15 practitioners that I go to for a variety of different things. And some of them have crossovers, but you're in charge of your health, and make sure you get a copy of every single one of your lab works. And just because the doctor hands it back to you and says you're fine or it's all in your head, go look for someone else, because they don't know everything. No one knows everything.
Yeah, agreed. Other frequently asked questions we get is, I'm only 30 and night sweats are waking me up. What's going on?
A lot of people have night sweats when they detox. So when your body is going through a healing crisis or a shift, or something even that's good, you might sweat a lot. For example, I may have a phenomenal massage or Rolfing or craniosacral work, and the next 2 nights I sweat my brains out. That doesn't mean it's a hormone thing. It's part of the shifting and the integration process of the new work that I was doing. So just to keep that in mind. And then secondly, when you are having night sweats, sweating in general is usually a sign that you have too much estrogen. It's like when estrogen peaks, you have these hot flashes or these sweats. So that can be part of it too. And that's why you want to check your hormones and get that saliva test. And try any of the things that we've said so far: adaptogens, breathing techniques, calming, soothing. I have tapping, swiping, earthing. I have people soak in ocean salts, or this time of year in the ocean if you have access to one. It's an ionic exchange. It pulls toxins out and puts calming, soothing, and electrolytes into your body. So before you jump to like, oh my gosh, something's going on and my hormones are out of whack, try the little things, the simple things, and go from there, because it could be something way more simple and you could be spending thousands of dollars getting lab tests when it could have just been adding flaxseed meal was a game changer for you.
Another question that we get asked a lot: I'm in my mid 40s and I think I'm menopause. Can that be true?
I think so. I mean, I think although it's hard to picture, supposedly we're born with a certain amount of eggs, and when we use them up, we're done. So that's what they say. You know, I believe in limitless healing, and with we use lasers and different kinds of crystals and energy things from the earth that can reprogram your cells. So I don't know. I mean, I think that I'll just give a personal example, which is very personal. I turned 50, didn't have a cycle for 2 months. And then I said, let me check in on my hormones. And then I checked in on my hormones and realized I was low in one thing. And I used a cream that we have, and suddenly I'm back to having normal cycles again. So it's, I think that the traditional doctors that you will go to and the traditional practitioners will be like, yeah, you're done. Especially if they're a man, they're going to be like, you're done. You're in your 40s. You already had your kids. So what? Those are the answers. They're not trained in this. You have to be in touch with yourself enough to say, I don't think I'm there yet. Like, let me check in on this. And again, get your tests, get your hormones checked and see where you're at. I had a woman once who her estrogen throughout the entire day was like outside of the normal range, but like all the way across the top. And when we got those test results back, I said, wow, like, thank God we did this, because if we didn't, you would be heading down the cancer road. We need to figure this out now. And there's no time like the present to take care of yourself and to assess and address what's going on. And these saliva tests you do at home and you send them to a lab. You don't have to break your quarantine or anything you're doing. Just get some information and figure out what's going on with you. Use this time, use this quiet time to get to the next level in your life, in your health, in your mind, and in your body. And don't be accepting of what someone tells you is, because they don't know. Most medical doctors have no health training. They know how to cut and prescribe medicine. A lot of their continuing education is paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. And when you're told something over and over again, that's just what you believe. So they don't know, they don't live in your body. You are the only person that lives in your body. So you are the one to make the final decisions and do what feels right for you.
Another question: since I've had children, I get very bad headaches during my period. Some months it's manageable and some months it's a migraine. The doctor suggested the pill. I was wondering if there's anything else that I can look at or should be looking at.
So I'm going to continually repeat myself, because all of these questions have a similar pattern. It's, I tell some of my clients, I'm like, when they first come here, when I first start to work with someone and they have issues like this, I'm like, pretend you're a fixer-upper house. What's the first thing you do? We have to gut some things out and get rid of some old things. Then we have to spackle, then we paint, and then we hang things on the wall. A birth control pill would be like hanging something on the wall, because you might be out of all other solutions or choices. But first you have to clean out the gut and clean out the liver and see if you feel better. I've had at least a dozen people over the years tell me that coffee enemas completely eradicated their migraines. I've had another dozen people that CoQ10 eradicated their migraines, and another dozen that putting EMF remediation on their phone got rid of their headaches. So right there, you have three really simple choices where you don't have to, a birth control pill is going to change everything about your body and put potentially more pollution in than helping heal you. And we don't know how we're going to react to a pharmaceutical. A lot of people watching this are sensitive. If you're one of those people that's like super sensitive, where you take something, you feel this way, if you know what it means to be vata, like vata people are like the wind, like we blow on them and they feel it and they fall over. So if you're more like that, you don't want to be trying something so extreme. You want to start with the little things and the things that root you and ground you and make you feel more balanced. So go back to the earth, the soaking, the tapping, the swiping. Get your phone remediated. We use these stickers that you put on the back of your phone. They stay on the life of your phone. Your phones cost a ridiculous amount of money, and these cost like a penny compared to that. And I'm not the only person that has them. We've been using this for 20 years. There's a lot of information out there about 5G, especially now. Like, I'm not sure if most people realize this, but while you've been in quarantine, they've been putting 5G in towers everywhere, and they're switching everything over. So 5G is like 3G, 4G, and then 5G. Like, it's a whole nother giant step up of this like free chaotic energy that surrounds you. Something that I do is called Vastu, where it's like a feng shui, but it takes into account this EMF stuff. So you can look into that as well. I have a couple of free blogs you can read and a do-it-yourself Vastu, but you really take this time to get your body in balance. This is the silver lining of this year, is slow down, go inside and regroup and rebalance. So we can talk about all the negative things, but we're going to focus on the silver lining. So use this time wisely. Make a list after you finish this webinar today. Make a list of some of the things that you want to start working on, and make a little timeline for yourself and just start. Don't stress about it, please. You don't need to stress and try to do them all at once. Anyone that does all or none, when they're not doing all, they do none. Do one thing at a time. Master that.
We have someone, and this, I know this happened to me. Any recommendations for thinning hair? I noticed just as I started to get older, my hair started thinning. And now it's thin.
Your hair does not look thin, but I believe you, because we all know our bodies are the best. I'm going to go back to reiterate everything I've said so far today. Yay, there's Denise.
I finally have arrived. I'm going to turn off this.
Might have been that 5G throwing you off. I do an energy test where people touch their body and we find where there's energy and where there isn't. And so I have a lot of people touch their hair, and the hair might have an energy, but when we tap and give stress to a scar or an organ, the hair goes weak. So hair is one of those like paintings on the wall. It's like, it may not be the thing we have to focus our attention on, but it's the red flag. It's like your hair thinning is your body going, hello, pay attention to me. Something's going on. I'm out of balance. And start with the root, like the tapping and the swiping, work on the assembly line. I didn't really talk about that in detail today, but it's on a lot of my social media and website, going through your detox organs. For hair itself, I would say you need B vitamins, you need silica. We have a product called Dermaven. It's like hair and nails. A lot of people think biotin, but that doesn't necessarily always work. And if it's not working, then it might also be putting more pollution into your body. So you have to make sure before you assess your hair, am I pooping? Am I sleeping? Do I have headaches? Like, those would be three things. If they're happening or not happening correctly, then you're out of balance. So start with getting into balance first, and then see if things slowly start to improve. I have so many people whose hair was not the problem, but the hair was the red flag. I have had two people in their just about 50 years old that showed that I've been working with them regularly for years. And they said, I have all these little weird things. My fingernail is this way, my elbow this, my eye this, my ear this. And all of those things trace back to her boob implants when she was 18 and she's 50. So that's one woman. And I had another woman with a very similar story. So the scars and the trauma sites need to be worked on, and any infection or toxicity need to be eradicated. But in order to do the scar, you first have to make sure the entire assembly line or detox system is healthy. And you can do both of those with tapping and swiping and castor oil. And there's free downloads. And then a couple of the downloads are for like $1 or $2 on our website. And we have the castor oil if you need it.
Okay, great. So I put our contact information in there. So I'll talk a little bit about something called Wise Pause Lifestyle. We're doing a virtual conversation. It's going to be Saturday, September 12th. I think we're starting at 8 a.m. to about 2 p.m. with experts around the country who are like Julie, some very specialized in particular complex issues like PCOS and leaky gut and celiac, even though Julie is specialized in that as well. We have medical doctors, naturopath, fitness experts, nutritionists, women who are lifestyle experts in terms of dressing, putting makeup on. We're going to have someone talk, those women who, you do not like your wrinkles. We're going to have someone who's going to talk about Botox and fillers. We're going to have someone there who addresses those issues in a natural way using microcurrent. So all day long, you'll have an opportunity to just hear information like you've heard today from Julie that you probably have never, ever heard in your entire life. And that we need to, for the women who are younger, to know that you don't need to suffer. For the women that are older, you don't need to suffer. And for the women who are younger, start now and get a baseline assessment of where your hormones are. So you just have an understanding about your body, especially if you haven't had children yet, or if you have had children, you may want to have children in 2 to 5 years, that you can have a healthy baby and that you can have a healthy pregnancy. And then for women who are older and have 20-year-old daughters, is to get them started with understanding their body more and what their baseline should be. The human body all it knows how to do is live. That's all the human body knows how to do. It's the reason why we can recover from COVID-19 when we get it, or the reason why when we break a bone at 80 years old, it will heal, right? So that we can live to be over 100 years old. So that if you start to think about, the body only wants to live. When the body decides to die, it dies, right? But when it's alive, it wants to be alive, and it wants to be alive in the best way that it can. And there are ways for us to do that. Some of those things is what we put in our mouths. Other things are other modalities like tapping that Julie talked about. But we can feel fantastic and wonderful every single day of our life. And with that, Julie?
Yeah, I want to first say one thing about the comment you just said. I feel great every day. And if I don't, I can get to feeling 100% by noon. And that means that I am paying attention to my body. I might be taking a nutrient. I might be doing an enema. I might be doing castor oil. I might be taking a time out to breathe. I hang upside down sometimes. Like, there's a million different things you can do. And I try to teach people this, here's a tool chest, make a new tool chest and start using that. Forget about like Excedrin, Tylenol, Pamprin, whatever we've used, like gauze and cough medicine, like your new tool chest, adaptogens, castor oil, EMF remediation, salts and electrolytes, and the ocean and the earth. You already have almost all of those without even buying anything. So tap into the new tool chest and, come into the new world with us with all of that. And I do want to, so that you can feel 100% all the time is my point there. And I do want to give a plug for the Wise Pause because I spoke there last year when it was in person. And I'm not easily impressed by health and holistic things. And I was really impressed. All the speakers were phenomenal. I learned something from every speaker, and it kept my attention, and it was so well done and so well put together. It's a day about you, and it's like a nice time out for you to just, as I said, like go inside and kind of like a longer extended version of today. Hopefully you took some notes and you made a list of these are some things I want to do, and I'll do one this month and one next month and so on. But so you'll have like a whole day of learning all different things related to your female body so you can truly live your best life and enjoy where you're at now and your future menopause, or if it's now. But so Wise Pause is such a nice, wise word for what it is.
Thank you. And you can get there by going to wisepause.com. And I also want to thank our host, Albright. Albright is an amazing club for women that started in the UK and is traveling around the world, opening up clubs. And they opened their third club in Los Angeles. And I am one of their founding members of the club here in Los Angeles. And a number of my friends, and we have enjoyed being part of the club. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Have a great, wonderful, and healthy day.
Thank you. Have a healthy day.
Thank you so much.